Welcome to the MICK Show, where I give you a laid-back look at the lives and businesses of today's most well-respected creatives. You'll learn key life lessons from culture's most prominent personalities, musicians, actors, athletes, and CEOs. So sit back, relax, and let's get into the show. This is the MICK Show. We are here with our special guest this time, Jojo. How are you?
I am very well. How are you?
I'm good. I have to say, I love the green. I love the neon. I love everything that's going on right there. I love the green in the plant. We won't discuss if it's real or fake, but I will tell you that all my plants are fake.
All my plants are fake, no matter what.
We could make if TikTok wasn't about to implode, we would say we could make a total whole TikTok thing about fake plants, but that's
We'd
obviously
definitely go viral with that.
So I have a lot of fun things I want to talk to you about today, musical stuff, cultural stuff, entrepreneurial stuff. But one thing I realized is you're wearing green and the plant's green. And I read that you were born in Massachusetts. Are you a Celtics fan? Because I'm a huge Celtics fan, and I have yet to interview a Celtics fan on this.
So let me be honest with you. I don't know anything about sports, but I do have male friends. I do, have other friends who, even my manager, Katie, loves basketball, really gives a fuck about that. So I try to stay adjacent to what's going on. When I was living in Boston before I moved to LA, I would be courtside at the games and just I love that energy. I love that energy of being at the games. Obviously, we can't do that now. So that kind of...
I would go to one or two Boston games a year over the last decade because I live in New York. I live in Brooklyn. And it was my favorite thing. I have a 5-year-old son and I took him to his first game last year and he loves it. And he identifies with green. He learned green from watching Boston with me, which is crazy. And now, of course, we're all just, stuck at home. So that's actually my first real question for you outside of our mutual love of the Irish basketball heritage. I'm not Irish at all. I'm Polish.
I am too, actually. Hold on. So
really?
let's yeah, I am.
Okay.
My mom is very Polish. Her last Gransky is a family name. And also, okay. But anyway, yep. So
that's nice.
Polish,
Did you eat
Irish.
Borscht and all that? Borscht? I don't even know what that stuff's called. It's like a pink soup. I never had it. But
we're not culturally Polish. We're just genetically Polish. So culturally, we were just poor white people. You feel me? And then
I love it.
Genetically, we have other things. Yeah.
That's hilarious. Culturally Polish. I should rename my podcast Culturally Polish. I mean, my last name is Batisky and nobody's been able to say it in 40 years. So I have no idea. So you and I are both in entertainment. I haven't been on a plane since March 6th. I assume you were probably on significantly more planes than I was. And I flew 225K miles a year. So I feel like you're probably at least double that. I mean, your home looks lovely, but how are you dealing with being home?
That's pretty amazing that you know how many miles you flew. And I'm actually curious now to tally up how many miles I flew in 2019. But I miss it. I do miss it. But I live in California and I think this is the best place to live. I'm really lucky because I take a lot of little trips. I booked a place in Huntington Beach the other day and just got away for a couple of days. I'm very fortunate that I can do that I can afford to do that. And that, I don't have kids that I need to take care of. I can just be all right, I'm going driving. And, we have Joshua Tree, we have Ojai, we have Palm Springs, we have, North San Francisco, Oakland, we have San Diego to the south. And so I've got some of my travel fixed by just even driving through California a little bit as things have gotten a little more lenient, of course, staying masked up and everything and taking all the precautions that you're supposed to take. But I miss being on an airplane. I miss random hotels. I miss all that stuff that was annoying about traveling, airports. I hate
I can't wait for the annoying stuff to come back. You know what's crazy? I didn't realize it till about 2 months ago. If you're in LA, I'm in New York, I'm in Brooklyn, our cities have the best coffee shops in the world, probably with the exception of maybe Portland or something like that, right? Or Seattle. And I rarely drink Starbucks except for at airports. And so I actually had Starbucks a couple months ago for the first time. And my brain, it just, the Starbucks coffee it has a different taste and the smell of the store and all the things they do for consumer experience. And I went in there and I ordered it. And, just to use the word grande and not be talking about Ariana, be talking about some fucking overpriced coffee. I'm just whoa, I took a sip and I felt like I was walking through JFK or something like that. It was completely mind blowing to me how
those sensory experiences are so amazing.
All right. So I want to talk about a couple of things. First of all, let's talk about your album. that came out like
Okay.
during the quarantine. What was it like? How was that rollout for you personally? Because you couldn't like just get on the road, and you couldn't just go like, I used to do radio zillions of years ago. Like, you can't go like station to station. You can't do the setup tours. You can't do any of that stuff. How
Right.
was it for the first time releasing an album when you can't physically do it?
Honestly, much better than I anticipated. I was nervous and I was like, feeling a bit overwhelmed of like, how can I do this body of work justice when I can't get out there and perform it in the way that I was expecting to. But life never goes how you expect it to. You have to stay like water and go with the flow and sometimes change shape. Like that's what I love to think about water is that, water when it's ice is still water. Water when it's vapor is still water. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you just have to take a different shape, but still be true to yourself and go with the flow. And I'm so grateful because I've been so busy that I haven't fell into the depression that a lot of people have during this pandemic because things are so uncertain. And when you have so much free time, it can be very daunting. It's really been a saving grace for me to have put this album out and to have my fans receive it the way that they have and to still have a semblance of that human connection that being an artist gives me that I normally get from being on the road and like seeing people up close, but communicating with people on the internet and via these apps and stuff has made me still continue to feel like myself and get to still be an artist just in a different time. Like we have to evolve. So this just kind of forced us into evolution that maybe we would have taken longer, if that makes sense.
No, I would completely agree. I'm curious, you mentioned apps. Like Vulture called it the horniest album of quarantine. What apps are we talking about here? Are we talking about like LinkedIn? Are we talking about, I don't know.
What I mean is things like this. Like I'm able to be on Zoom and like talk with people and like have meet and greets via Zoom and stuff like that. But it is funny that it was called the horniest album of quarantine. It didn't even, it is pretty sexually charged and it's ironic because I was abstinent during the making of this album, but I had enough experiences under my belt to where I could just go into my Rolodex and remember. but
nice.
But it was important.
we won't go into that. We won't go into that. But that's somebody else's podcast. You're gonna have to do.
It was important to me to like really keep my creativity and my energy for myself during the making of this album, and the fact that some of it was very sensual or sexual was, I guess, just where I was at. So thanks, Vulture, for that funny quote.
Yeah, that's going to be the thing. Like, you'll never be able to like live down for like the rest of your life ever.
I know. My mother's so proud of me.
I would imagine she has a tattoo of that totally on her arm.
Horniest album of quarantine by my daughter.
I mean, I would, if I was actually making money in this quarantine, I would buy your mom that tattoo for you. I would, because I just would love to. I would love to see
what
that.
A gift!
I would love that. I would love the Instagram photo cred for that one. So you're talking about creativity, right? And I remember I went and did a little deep dive on interviews and stuff that you did, and you mentioned that when you were a child, you were very enterprising and creative, and I thought that was really interesting because when I was a kid, like creatives were looked at as like we weren't going to be successful, and entrepreneurs were not looked at as, now you're an entrepreneur, people want to give you $2 million from venture funds. But like when I was a kid, my dad was an entrepreneur and his business failed 3 times. He was just a small business owner. His shit fucking failed all the time. So when you say that you were enterprising and creative, I love that because I think about how I raised my son. I think about like the things that impacted me as a child. And I'm just curious, like, did you see yourself entrepreneurial? Did you know that, like, what advice would you give to like a young kid now who perhaps was in your shoes when you were little with all the opportunities we have now?
I don't know if I saw myself as entrepreneurial. Like then I certainly didn't have that language to describe what I was doing, but I considered myself gritty, I guess. I considered myself like an ethical hustler because I was never like a hustler that would do immoral things. I just mean that like I was a hustler where I would go to the nail salon with my Aunt Connie, like our little local nail salon, and I would know my value, know that I was a good singer as a kid, and ask the ladies, because they'd be like, "Oh, will you sing for me?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, for $1." That's kind of how I was. Or I would come up with different ideas, little businesses, local things, like making lemonade or things of that nature. The advice that I would give to kids today is follow your passion. That's what will sustain you. When you are passionate about something and you focus your attention and energy into it, that will make it so you don't feel like you're working, because that's what I'm able to do. I have endless energy toward music and other creative ventures, just things that spark joy because they spark joy within me and because I know I'm good at it. So I feel confident. I think confidence matched with passion is what will be able to sustain you. And then also, carving out, developing good work ethic and taking advantage of all the tools that are at your disposal for free. Social media, building up a relationship with a fan base, no matter how big or small. Don't undervalue other human beings. When you guys can rally around something that you all dig, that can be really, really powerful. And one will become two, and two, four, and so on and so forth.
You get to that point maybe where 1 + 1 is 3 and 2 + 2 is 5. You get to that like little gain, the bigger gains when the stuff really starts working. My DJ career started early 2000s. Your music career obviously was like in that first part of the 2000s. We were right there, like after the internet peaked, and not peaked, but it was a force. So we were able to like use it. And when I look at artists who from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, even 90s that like became cultural icons without the ability of self-amplification, it's wild to me to think about how they did that. So I consider us so much more fortunate to just be able to like, I know how much work I put in. I know we all know how much work you put in. And to think about like how lucky we were to be the beneficiaries of like people actually catching that in real time versus like through the amplification of a machine.
Completely agree. And actually, so yes, we were able to kind of ride that wave. But I was just thinking back to what you asked about, like, what is it like putting out an album during this pandemic? I'm grateful for all the groundwork and the kind of the relationship that I've built over the years with people in the industry and with my fans, because it must be even harder for somebody who's a new artist who's trying to put things out during this time. Because I already have that familiarity and I already have that relationship with my fans. So trying to build that when you haven't been out there kind of pounding the pavement for a long time is a different thing. But like you said, to artists of the 50s and 60s and stuff, like, it was just a different mindset, a different type of grit and determination that was necessary. I was hearing a story, a friend of mine was telling me the Jackson 5 were literally in their car with their dad, Joe, driving around for 3 years, just doing that circuit, performing anywhere they could. 3 years doesn't sound like that long anymore, but when you're driving through America as a Black family in the 50s and 60s, that resilience and determination is just mind-blowing.
Even if you think of the quarantine 6 months, imagine like 5 more of those. That's a long ass time, right? Like that's like, I don't want to imagine that. So like imagining doing that, that's a pretty wild thing.
Before they had any traction, you know what I'm saying? So that's just a type of, it's inspiring.
I feel like with the quarantine, a lot of people went into a lot of like more self-introspective stuff too, to try to come out of it better. I mean, I've failed at that shit miserably a million times. But one thing I actually did do, I failed at everything, dude. Like, I don't know. You can't tell. It looks good on like a little square, but like in real life, it's a disaster. But at the beginning of quarantine, I went vegan. And then I fell off for a little bit, and now I'm kind of back on it. I don't think I'm going to be a lifelong vegan person or vegetarian person, but I saw a picture of me from a couple years ago when I was in a different space, and I posted it on Instagram. That's because that's what we do. And I looked at it, and I didn't recognize that person, and it like looked like me, but it didn't feel like me, and that fucked me up because I know what it looked like, but when I saw that person, it was, and I was like, I need to make some wholesale changes right now. So I just like for 2 months went straight vegan. And it was probably the best that I've felt ever. And so I wanted to talk to you about that because I saw that you kind of do a lot of that as well.
I'm curious though, if this is the best you've ever felt, why do you think that you won't be a lifelong vegan? Or are you saying that because you don't plan on being a perfect vegan? Because neither do I. You know what I'm saying?
That's more so why.
I think that I will be plant-based for the rest of my life. But that's why I say plant-based and not vegan, because I am not a perfect person. And I'm not above having something that doesn't fall into the vegan way of eating if I'm in Spain or if I'm in, if I want to have a beautiful insert meat product, whatever, every once in a while. I'm just not, I do it for the health benefits, the way it makes me feel. And I don't like the idea of consuming death and disease and depression and fear, you know? So, and that's no judgment, but that's just how I think about it. There's no judgment on people who enjoy eating meat. Meat is delicious. And I understand we've been conditioned to get used to that. But over quarantine, I've become extremely passionate about plant-based cooking, baking, and mixology. So that's everything from, from raw foods and stuff. I made a raw lasagna the other day with all fresh sauces and nut cheeses, all the way to like vegan wines that I'm curious about, because I guess a lot of wines are made with pesticides and things that, if you're a real vegan, unlike myself, that really matter to you. I'm just paying attention to these things. And as I get older, wanting to take more of my health into my own hands, I have a pretty serious distrust of the pharmaceutical industry and of Western medicine standards. There's too many documentaries that have contributed to my awakening surrounding, taking my health into my own hands.
Okay, I always try Eastern first, and then when that, if that fails, it usually doesn't, then I'll move Western with the medicine.
Exactly. But I would just talked about this on my IG Live today. I've been on SSRIs. I've been on an antidepressant since I was like 20 years old. And I'm in the process of weaning myself off of that because I want to actually walk the walk. Like I do the other things, I eat well, I'm active, I meditate, I have a relationship with God, all those things. But like, I'm still on these chemicals. Fuck the pharmaceutical industry, man, for real. So I just don't trust them. I'm just trying to see what it's like to be me, to be inside my body in this experience.
I had anxiety and depression. I mean, I'm sure do. We all do. But like I was on, I don't even know how you say it, like Zoloft or whatever, like maybe 15 years ago. And I just took myself off it because I didn't want to be reliant.
Just like that? Or you didn't mean?
No, I just like never renewed the prescription. And then I'm bald, I grew hair, like all sorts of amazing shit happened. It was fantastic. I lost 20 pounds.
Serious?
No, hell no.
Oh.
but I saved $50 a month, and I didn't have to I felt a little bit, and there again, this is not knocking anybody that obviously does that. Like there are situations for it.
It's life changing.
For me, I wanted to see, as an adult, how I could thrive without it. And I'm making the necessary holistic things I needed to do. I ended up being fine. But there are some days I wake up like, damn, maybe I need a magic pill. That's not wine or tequila. I feel like one of the greatest things that came out of this quarantine was this whole Versuz thing that everyone's doing. And you were kind of early on the Swiss Beats thing. You had Swiss production like in the 2007, 2006, somewhere in there. Like it was, way before he was like the Harvard guy and the art guy and the Versuz guy. And so I was curious, like, what has been your favorite one that you've seen? And do you have like one that you would love to see?
Well, I thought the Jadakiss Fabulous one was hilarious because Jadakiss was so lit. And he was wearing a shirt that was pretty much this color. And he was just like, I just love Jadakiss so much. And that just felt super New York to me. And I lived in New Jersey in middle school for a couple of years. So I just really, that touched my heart.
He gave zero fucks, like no fucks. Like it was perfect.
No fucks. And then what else? The Snoop DMX one was great. When DMX led us in prayer and was like off the top of the dome, rhyming and praying, I was like, wow, okay, what a time to be alive. I enjoyed the Jill Scott, Erykah Badu one very, very much. That was inspiring because I grew up listening to their music and they were so influential to me. And I forgot a lot of those songs until I realized that they were lodged in my brain and heart. And I started singing like the entire set list that they played.
Crazy, right? I say that with every Versuz. I'm like, how are these fucking people going to do 20 songs? Then I'm like, and I'm a DJ. This is what I'm supposed to do for a living. Like, I need to know this. Like, categorically, this is how I live. And I'm just like, oh, fuck. Really?
Wow. Right.
It's crazy.
And I would say that the one that I just had the most fun with was Beanie Man Bounty Killer.
So fun.
I went right ahead and downloaded like Beanie Man essential cuts and deep cuts. And I was just like getting my fucking life, just having the best time. So he's been the soundtrack to my summer so far, Beanie Man.
I love that. Who's your favorite? Like, what age did you really come of awareness to music? Like, I read that, like, maybe your mom played a lot of Motown, like maybe when you were growing up or something like that, which my mom did that as well. But, like, what was the age who were the first artists, like, the first thing you bought with your own money musically?
First thing I bought with my own money was the George Benson's Greatest Hits.
Are you serious? Like, Breathe In and Give Me the Night and all that?
Just Give Me the Night.
Oh, you need to come to one of the parties I DJ, because I will literally play Give Me the Night and then mix it into like your record.
That's mind blowing. So I'm going to follow you after this because hopefully you'll let me know when that party is popping. But
well, next year.
2021. I
By
met
the way,
George Benson actually
go ahead.
at an airport, and I got to tell him how much I loved him. And he's like, "How you know who I am, baby girl?" Like, because I was, just a baby. I mean, it's a couple years ago, but he's like, "Why do you know who I am, young white girl? This is so random." Yeah, that was the first album that I bought because On Broadway was my favorite song.
Yeah.
Neon lights are bright on Broadway.
You should cover that.
And I will, and I have, and I will continue to. But my mom played, show tunes, operatic music, Catholic church hymns, Motown, folk. There was such a eclectic collection of music playing through my childhood.
I love that. I mean, George, you blew my mind with that. Like, I figured you were going to say something really dope. Like, I figured that. I figured you weren't. I won't say something that I don't think is dope. People listening to this, but like, I figured you would say something really good. One of the things I've done during this quarantine is like, I mean, obviously, like every other DJ, I'm just DJing on IG Live and all that. And so on Sundays, I have my kid half the week, and I have him on Sundays. So I can't play like all the stuff I want to play. Playing like all R&B and all soul and all classic 70s. And I play so much George Benson, and I play so much, Donald Byrd, and I play so much Roy Ayers, and it's just been so my son every morning sings Everybody Loves the Sunshine, and he sings like, it's wild to me, and he's 5. And so I think about like how that music has touched him. I mean, he would have heard it eventually, but for him hearing me play that sort of vibe consistently weekly,
it's
for
so
him
nourishing.
to bring it up, it's super nourishing. And then he's like, it's really cool. And I'm just like, that would not have happened. When I think about George Benson, I think like some of the first hip hop songs I used to hear, which inspired me to be a DJ, sampled him. So I learned about him from sampling. Me coming from a music background, like, it's really great. You're the first person that said we did D Nice, we did DMC, we did a bunch of like legends and peers and things like of that nature. But it's just like to hear somebody say George Benson, you just took it right there. His Spotify streams are going to go crazy now because of you. So he should give you at least 20%. So if your manager is on the Zoom, send that email, man.
Come on, okay, George.
So one thing I want to end with, we like to end with this egotistically because my name is Mick. So we just 4 quick questions and we'll wrap this. M for music. What is the song that has the most significant meaning to you in your life?
I don't know. I'm going to say Free Man in Paris by Joni Mitchell. The way that she talks about her experience in the music industry and then the freedom that she found by leaving for a moment and kind of recentering herself. Her melodies, her jazz influence, her musicianship. I mean, I just stan her clearly. She's one of my queens. So yeah, that's really meaningful to me for a lot of different reasons.
I love it. I mean, if you're going to stand someone and have a queen, it's like there's very few people that would reach that, like that level of iconicness. So I'm totally here for that. I love playing her song and then mixing into like the Janet Jackson and all that stuff and going back and forth. Yeah, it's great. Which is one of the first actually ever Jay Dilla productions. The whole Got To It's Gone. Nobody really realizes he was part of the production of that. Okay, if you could fix one world problem, what would it be?
Obviously, hunger and thirst are the biggest issues because then from there, nothing can happen if you don't have the nourishment and the nourishment that your body needs. But I think my focus would be education and making sure that every child is educated in the world. That would be my dream if I could be a part of solving one problem, because I mean, an education that is true and accurate and that isn't just for rich people, but that like everybody gets, because knowledge is power. And I think that when you have that, you can change the world when you're equipped with that. So I just wish there was more parity across the board with education.
Yeah, I think about that a lot. I mean, getting my kid into a dope kindergarten in Brooklyn, it was like getting me into college when I went to college. It was literally the same level of work.
I mean, I went to public school and then I was homeschooled because I was on the road and everything. But like when I hear people talking about the tuition they're paying for their, I'm just like, this is inconceivable. It's absolutely crazy.
I could unequivocally tell you the preschool my kid went to when he was 2, 3, and 4 was the same exact as my undergrad for the first 3 years. I mean, we got some finger paint. We got some shit. You could, that's what we got. I mean, it was great and he loves it and he could Lego his fucking ass off, but there's no job waiting. All right. C, craziest risk you've ever taken. Was it worth it and why?
It was pretty risky to put up the money to record my first 2 albums, to re-record them, because there was no precedent set where I didn't have any kind of blueprint to follow in doing that. My first 2 albums weren't available on streaming services because my former label didn't make them available. So I felt like my history was being erased, and I wanted to take matters into my own hands. And I was like, okay, I'm going to put up this money in hopes that that my fans will, that this will be what they want, and that I'll make the money back and be able to now own these masters and do things with this music. So I would say that was one of the biggest risks I took. And it has definitely paid off. And I'm glad that I did that, because it made me feel empowered. And I like when we can come up with creative solutions to things that seem like that's just it. Like it's impossible. You just have to accept it. And you don't.
Plus, it was like your vision and your hustle and your entrepreneurship that got that out there again too when you needed to do that by putting up the money. So there's nothing better than controlling, you're driving your own ship, if you will. You're controlling, to the best of your ability, I'm sure a million people have delved into a lot of the other, the mythical Aaliyah releases and all that stuff of that label. So we'll save that for some behind the music or some Close Encounters, alien shit, or whatever's going to finally solve that. I don't know. I don't know. I don't have that. Maybe my kid's preschool degree will one day be the magical link to discover that thing.
I really hope so.
Maybe the cross behind you. We'll figure it out. And the last one, key life lesson you'll always carry with you from somebody you admire. And actually, I'm going to change that for this one because, I know your mom was walking in the background, and I've heard you reference your mom a few times. I'm sure there's been a lot of interesting people that have really helped you in your life, but my mom and I are super close. And obviously you and your mom. Let's talk about your mom. What is the key lesson she's given you? Or she just seems like an amazing person. So like, what would you say?
My mom is an amazing person. I would say that the biggest lesson that she's imparted me with is, she's over there laughing at me. She's doing crunches on the floor. Oh. No, she's taught me how to be grounded and what is important in life. And that is being a good person more than anything. And that things are things, and they're fleeting, and they're just not as important as love and connection and human beings and being honest. My mom's a very, very honest person to a fault, but she has taught me gratitude, I think. And I think that is like one of the best gifts you can give your children, is the example of resilience. She's picked herself up from a low place many times and started over. And also the example of wellness. My mom is very active. She's super fit and well, and we're both on this journey together, and it's really, really cool.
I love that. That's really cool. I mean, that's like, I love to end on a positive note. And I don't think you could get any more positive than like an amazing, just holistic, real relationship between a parent and a child or friends.
We've come a long way.
Yeah.
We've come a long way. We're very fortunate. Yeah, we really are.
What's anything that you have coming up this fall that people could look forward to?
Yeah, so the deluxe version of my album comes out August 28th, and it features like 6 new songs, which are so fucking good. And I just can't wait for people to have them finally. And it features my girls, Tinashe and Demi Lovato. And then I'm releasing a Christmas album. I haven't officially announced that, but I'm telling you now, it's awesome. And
I love it.
I felt really compelled to make something that feels wholesome and soulful and nourishing, especially after this year that we've all had.
For sure.
So it's like half original, half Christmas standards, just kind of how Christmas feels to me. And I have several things that I'm developing that I'm really excited about. And I'm going to stay active in the kitchen, keep whipping up plant-based goodness and
whipping up that work.
Whipping up that work in every way.
I love it. Your video, I felt like there were some subliminal like TLC vibes in it when I saw it took me back to that place when you guys were dancing and stuff like that. I loved it. It felt cool.
Thank
Crazy,
you.
Sexy, cool, or whatever the album was called.
That's exactly it.
I don't even know. Thank you so much, Jojo. We really appreciate it. I know you got a lot going on, and good luck with everything. And I hope my Celtics and your half Celtics do well this playoffs. And shout out to your mom and the crunches. I need that workout. And
me too.
Thank you so much for being so amazing.
Thanks, Mick. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. And that was it for another episode of The MICK Show. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We sincerely appreciate it. Please, please, please do us a favor. Wherever it is that you listen to your favorite podcast, please, please subscribe to The MICK Show. Like The MICK Show. Write a review for The MICK Show. Leave a star rating for The MICK Show. Whatever you can do helps. 5 stars would be amazing. 4 stars would be cool. 4.5. I was never an A+ student in school. I was like that B+ guy. So anything in that range, more than grateful for. Also, make sure you follow on social, Instagram at Mick, Twitter at I am Mick. Let me know who you want to see on a future episode of The MICK Show so we can try to get them on for you. Again, thank you all so much for tuning in, and we will see you back here next week.